I was folding laundry when I saw it. My favorite oversized sleep shirt. It was wrinkled in a way that told me it hadn't just been sitting clean in the drawer. I paused, my hand still holding the soft fabric, and tried to recall the last time I'd worn it. Then I remembered, I hadn't. But I knew someone who had. Her name was Maddie. She was 27, a grad student looking for a short-term sublet in the city. I was 39, divorced for just over a year, with a house that felt too quiet and too large for one person. When she showed up to tour the spare room, she looked nervous. Sweet, polite, a little shy. Something about her made me want to make her feel at home. I told myself I was just being a good host. When she moved in, things were easy. We didn't step on each other's toes. We shared the kitchen, made small talk, and occasionally watched a movie together in the living room. She was always careful, always respectful. But slowly, the boundaries began to shift. I'd find her in the kitchen in the mornings, barefoot, her hair a mess, wearing soft cotton tank tops that clung to her in all the wrong ways. Once or twice I caught myself looking too long. I chalked it up to curiosity. Harmless. I didn't realize how lonely I had become until she started asking about my life. She'd sit across from me at the counter and listen, really listen, as I talked about the wreckage of my marriage, the way my ex made me feel invisible long before he left. Maddie was kind in a way that didn't feel performative. She asked thoughtful questions. She laughed at my sarcasm. She noticed when I cut my hair or when I was having a bad day. And one morning, she walked into the kitchen wearing my shirt. It was the one I always wore on rainy Sundays, long and soft and a bit worn at the seams. She didn't say anything about it. Just smiled sleepily, grabbed a mug, and poured herself coffee like it was the most natural thing in the world. I opened my mouth to say something but nothing came out. I just watched her. The way the fabric clung to her thighs, how she rolled the sleeves up without thinking, how comfortable she looked in something so personal. I felt something twist in my stomach. That day I stayed quiet. But that night I found the shirt in the laundry hamper. She'd returned it without a word. From there the tension grew. She started spending more time in the living room with me. She'd brush past me in the hallway, her fingers grazing mine. I told myself it was innocent, that I was imagining things. But I wasn't. And I think she knew it too. One evening, after a couple of glasses of wine, we watched a movie together. She curled up next to me on the couch. It was cold, and I offered her a blanket. She leaned her head on my shoulder, and I felt her breath on my neck. My whole body stiffened, but I didn't move away. We didn't kiss. We didn't touch. But emotionally, mentally, I was already there. I was in that gray space between loneliness and longing, between curiosity and desire. And I hated myself for it. I was old enough to know better. She was younger, freer, living her life while I was still piecing mine back together. But I'd started looking forward to seeing her face every morning. I'd started thinking about her at work. I'd started feeling things I hadn't felt in years. Things I didn't feel with my ex even when our marriage was good. One weekend, she went away for a few days to visit friends. The house felt hollow without her. I realized how much space she had started to take up in my life, in my thoughts. That scared me more than anything. When she returned, I knew something had to change. We sat on the porch one evening, sipping wine, wrapped in separate blankets. I told her I appreciated how kind she had been, how much I enjoyed having her around. But I also said I needed to create space. For her, for me, for clarity. She didn't say much. Just nodded quietly and looked out at the streetlights. A week later she moved out. Early. No drama. No conflict. She left a note thanking me for the room, for the talks, and for the calm I'd given her during a stressful semester. I folded it up and tucked it into the drawer where I used to keep my favorite shirt. That was 6 months ago. I haven't heard from her since. I still think about her sometimes. About the way we walked right up to the edge of something neither of us fully named. About how temptation doesn't always look like scandal. It can look like comfort, like safety, like being seen for the first time in years. Did I cheat? Not in the literal sense. But emotionally. I let myself go somewhere I shouldn't have. I let my loneliness blur the lines of what was appropriate. And while nothing happened between us, everything almost did. That's the part one still wrestle with. I've since started dating again. Carefully, slowly. I'm trying to build something real, grounded. But no matter how far I move forward, there's a part of me that will always remember the way it felt to have someone walk into my kitchen wearing my shirt, and the complicated mess of feelings that followed. If there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Infidelity doesn't always live in actions. Sometimes it lives in thoughts, in silence, in what we allow to grow in the spaces where honesty should live. And sometimes the hardest thing is not the mistake you make, but the truth you have to face when you almost make it.